Hello, everybody. A little technical difficulty, so we learn lessons as we go, right? So never try and update your computer like an hour before you go live. My other computer's still updating and freak out time, but we got it all worked out. Yay! So welcome everybody to day 13. I can't believe it's day 13. Yay! So this is Robin Leslie with OnlyTheInspired.com, and I'm super excited about today's interviews. I have the amazing Kemy Joseph here today. Yay! And then we also have Tamarah Quillmann, and I hope it's all glitchy on my side, so hopefully everybody's good. Comment and let us know where you're coming from. Let me know if you could see my video. It looks a little glitchy. So let me know how that is coming out for you. But if all else fails, we will do a live interview with the amazing Kemy Joseph. Tamarah won't be able to be here, but she will be in the group later on if you have any questions for her. So without further ado, I am going to bring up the amazing Kemy Joseph, and I'm super, super excited to have him here today.
Hey, yeah, thank you so much for having me. Can you hear me and everything's all good?
How you doing?
I am doing well. Thanks for rolling with the tech issues. I mean,
I
we
hear
were talking,
you.
you cannot hear me. Let's see, here. Let's go
I wonder.
hold on, it might be on me. 1, 2, 3.
Oh,
I
yep.
could
All
hear
right. I
you.
got it.
All
We're
right, there we
good.
go. Close. There you go. Hey, out there, Facebook world, right? When you start doing broadcasts, you'll run into all these types of issues. So I think it's less about avoiding issues and more about how do we navigate them in a way that keeps us focused and keeps us going strong. So thanks for demonstrating that, Robin, and thank you for having me today.
Oh, no problem. And yeah, you can never plan for issues. It's like, oh crap. Okay, how do we do this? So I am so excited to have you here today.
Yeah,
We did an interview. It was 11th, and actually we did a couple interviews.
yeah.
And, and the other one, I'm still. We did a interview about the George Floyd thing, and I'm the least prejudiced person that I know, and as my fiance was watching that video back, he just had a uncomfortable feeling. It's like, yeah, I don't know. So that's why we haven't played that one. I was trying to be transparent and everything, and it was just such a sensitive subject, and yeah, he was thinking I came across wrong and I didn't have that space for you, Kemy. And so and then we did this amazing interview after, and the energy is so awesome, and I absolutely love what you're doing, and I'm so excited to share this. So everybody out there, if you could let me know if there's glitchiness, or if everything's going through. It looks like everything's going through. There might be a little glitchiness.
A little bit of glitchiness as we transition. And if I can just say one thing on that, you're talking about the other interview, I appreciate the vulnerability that you show, and that we're talking through in this other interview, talking right after George Floyd. And I think what we discussed there, just the kind of takeaways, is just like the difficulty a lot of people are having in the conversation, and even with some of our best intentions, other people may not see that, or it's still hard to communicate even when we have like our hearts in the right place, our minds in the right place, and we're navigating conversations that most of us are not used to having, and also that most of us haven't been having before. So we're stepping into a lot of new things. And so thank you for your vulnerability with that, and that we're kind of coming full circle now and being able to touch base again. And so I appreciate you, and so many levels.
Oh, you're welcome. And and yeah, the whole thing is, you may never ever mean to offend somebody, but you can. And and it's just not necessarily political correctness, and that could be it, you know, because I still talk about people who are Oriental, and for me, the Orient is the same as Asian, but I guess that's wrong, and so that's one of the reasons, honestly, why I got out of real estate, is because you could say something very minor and offend people, and so it just makes me want to shut my mouth, because I don't, obviously, would never want to offend anybody. And
Yeah, I think that's the avoidance a lot of folks will make. And I mean, it's I still have where people are correcting me quite often. So just know that, like, even if you're down in the work every day, there's still more to grow. And I think that there's an interesting idea that ignorance is bliss sometimes, because if you don't if you don't care, or if you don't get yourself involved, then it's easier to kind of go through your life ignoring people. And I think those of us who actually do care, we feel not only the weight of the words we use and watching ourselves, but also the sadness that can come, or even the embarrassment that can come if we get it wrong or we offend somebody unintentionally. And my journey on that is figuring out, how do I stay open to correction and feedback? And that's honestly, like, been a very difficult thing. And I still can, especially, like, most of my conversations are being recorded, so I really watch myself, and then I can go back and watch myself and be like, wow, okay, I can do X better, or I got to clear up these terms, or be willing to shift my perspective if I'm feeling a little frustrated with somebody correcting me sometimes. So I hear you, and welcome you and everybody to keep going on the journey, because that struggle, that difficulty, when we get through the other side, we continue to become stronger for it, and more inclusive for it, and better able to support others in being who they want to be and who they are in this world.
mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. um huh. I just see all sorts of glitchiness on my side.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do is, I am going to play his interview, if because I'm on my dinosaur computer right now. If it's too glitchy, then I'm going to stop it, and then we're going to do a live interview. And then I could always play the recorded interview later once my other computer is done updating. So we're going to try and get that done. And then we'll talk more. And so we're going to play the interview. Then Kemmy's going to come back up. And I want you guys to put comments in the chat, and hopefully we'll have a chance to actually bring people up and ask live questions. And don't be shy. Let us know where you're tuning in from. His interview is absolutely awesome, and the whole F.E.A.R.S advantage, I absolutely love it. And it's a different take, and it's not running away from fears. It's actually engaging with them. So I'm super excited about this. So let me attempt to play the recording. If it does not work, then we are going to do a live interview. So make sure you mute yourself, okay, Kemy?
Perfect.
And then we'll see you when this interview is over. And then please put comments in the chat, any questions that you have for Kemy in the chat, and then we'll be back for a live Q&A. Right, so hold on. Thor is not going to be able to handle it.
No worries. We'll keep on flexing and pivoting. I mean, it's interesting. My business partner and I, Brian, we're talking about being pivoting professionals, and I think that that's the name of the game. Is we're constantly pivoting in order to just adjust for this time and then the technology and all the things. And so, yeah, let's do it.
Yep, we're doing the live interview. Yay! Okay, awesome. So, Mr. Cammy Joseph, in a couple of minutes, describe who you are and how you help people.
Yeah, so in a couple of minutes, my name is Kemy Joseph, co-founder of F.E.A.R.S Advantage, and we help people take advantage of their fears. Right now, everybody is telling you to either overcome your fears, run away from your fears, or even push those fears down to overcome them. And we believe you can overcome obstacles and challenges and barriers, but you cannot overcome your emotion. You cannot overcome your fears. They're inside of us for a reason. So we're helping people to actually use those fears as an acronym, FEARS, to fuel extraordinary actions, relationships, and systems. And the beauty of what we get to talk about here today is how we're navigating this time during COVID to help people, again, use their fears to fuel extraordinary actions, relationships, and systems. And, we were talking a moment ago around this conversation with prejudice, and we're helping people to use that same framework to actually navigate cultural expansion in their businesses and do diversity in a way that actually reduces people's fears and allows them to show up as the extraordinary people we need right now to create extraordinary solutions.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's a learning process. It's a learning
Absolutely.
process on how to include everybody. And yeah, so how did you get started in this? Was it one event or a series of events? Because I know you're also a speaker, right?
Yeah, definitely been a series of events. When we look at when we're looking at the journey of my life personally, back in the day, I just kind of take a snapshot into my life as an elementary kid. And at the time of being first generation here, like first generation Haitian American from a low income family of divorce. And just the struggles that I had with my own emotions caused me to be the kind of student who would eventually pick up chairs and throw them across a classroom full of other kids. And during that time, I was labeled as emotionally handicapped and actually expelled out of my elementary school. So my journey of social emotional learning, like learning about myself and learning about what to do with my fears, what to do with my emotions, started at a very early age. And I've gone through so much training, by force and then by choice later on in my life to be able to understand what to do with my fears. And as I started to navigate some more of these spaces, it's interesting. Recently, people have been calling me something like an empath. I'm like, wow, that's way better than being called emotionally handicapped, right? It's to see that same emotions that was causing me so much trouble when I was a child, when I learned to use them properly, I could actually motivate not only myself, but also other people and help them navigate a lot of difficulties. And so when I started to understand that these emotions, these fears can be fuel, that changed everything for me. And my goal is then to share that with more people, especially entrepreneurs, right? When we talk about this, like the life of what we can do when we're inspired and no longer just having to rely on positive emotions or positive experiences to leave us inspired. How do we use the negative ones? How do we use the difficulties in our life to also show up inspired, to also use that as fuel to do things that are extraordinary? And so that's a snapshot of what brought me from where I would say I was struggling or barely living to where I feel like I'm thriving and able to help others.
You are, to me, you seem super mellow. I just can't picture you hurling chairs across the room.
You're super mellow.
I'm super curious about the learning that you did in the connecting, because you seem very peaceful, very at ease, and I could never picture that.
Well, I think I love that people describe me that way, and there was a point where, going back to that idea of overcoming our fears, there was a point where I was taught that was how to do it. So I learned how to hide. I learned how to hide the emotion. I learned how to stuff it, and that was creating its own toxicity in my body, and it actually created a lot of health issues. And so finding the sense of balance to where, you know, people can see me as a calmer person, people see me as a joyful person. I love that dichotomy, because I'm like, well, I'm grateful to be living that life. So it continues to inspire me to seek and to seek greater self-acceptance, to seek greater understanding of the world in order to be able to help more people make that transition, so they don't have to go from being as extreme. Like, they don't have to go from extreme to extreme. But I'm finding gratitude in my journey from those extremes, from those struggles, from those losses, because it's helped me be the kind of person where when I tell that story, people are like, I can't even imagine that. I'm like, great, like that's that's just kind of an affirmation of the transformation.
Yeah. Well, and you know, we're not always taught how to deal with everything. And when you're raised in a low income, single family, you know, single parent household, it's stressful. And if we don't know how to handle it, sometimes that's outbursts. Sometimes people can learn how to channel that into sports. Sometimes they could channel it into other things, but if there's no outlet, then it's going to come out somewhere, or you're going to internalize it and it's going to hurt you.
Yeah, there is a speaker named Josh Shipp that he said, well, people don't talk out, they act out. And I remember when I heard that, it just blew my mind of, again, as a kid, what I wasn't speaking out, or I didn't even know what to ask for or what support to seek. All I could do was act out the pain that I was experiencing. And I believe that's what we're seeing in this world right now. If we kind of take a snapshot into current events, it's, you know, when you say, I can't even imagine you doing that, I start to think, what was the trauma that I was dealing with that would inspire me to take a chair and throw it across the room or lash out? And you know, the way that we deal with trauma is not logical. I wish it was. That'd be amazing. It's like, it's definitely not logical. And we're seeing this as a country, that we're going through an unprecedented time of trauma, and how people are responding oftentimes is not in their best interest either. And the sad part is that we believe that even a negative response would solve our problem, but we're seeing right now it's making it worse. And when we start to then add things like racial tension on top of that, and discrimination, it is more fuel to the fire. And so we understand the emotional piece, whether we're talking about entrepreneurship or we're talking about celebrating diversity in the world, like that emotional piece, that fuel that comes from our fears must be addressed.
Right. Well, and there's, like you said, lots of fears right now. So some people are out of work. Some people have lost their jobs. You have the whole racial inequality stuff, and you have nasty political crap going on. You have, you know, and it's not just the US, it's the world that's all being affected. And some people are able to unplug, and some people, their stress is at an ultimate high because, oh my gosh, am I going to lose my business? And
my livelihood, my dreams, my hopes. I mean, there's such a level of uncertainty right now. And I think you and I were talking about Tony Robbins, and whenever people watch the interview, you know, they'll see our connection to him, and the idea of certainty being a foundational piece of our livelihood. If we feel uncertain, then we are more likely, or easier to be triggered, higher level of anxiety. Dr. Michelle Borba will even say that as our anxiety rises, our empathy decreases. So there's an empathy gap. And we're seeing that we have way higher levels of anxiety and stress. And then the more I'm consumed by my anxiety, the less I care about other people. Or I'm just trying to take care of myself. And we're seeing that happen over and over again. And actually the thing that helps to lower anxiety is having relationships. So it's almost backwards, that we're like starting to self-isolate. We're starting to defend ourselves and separate ourselves from people who are different than us. However, if we actually form more relationships, that would not only help us to re-regulate our stressed brain and get through it together, but it also will help us have more empathy for people who are different than us. So it's really helping people to take the things that are holding them back and use that to inspire them to move forward.
So describe your ultimate vision for your business.
Ultimate vision for the business. So when especially as we're stepping into this role of helping people to transcend prejudice and create that, we're working with businesses right now, I get super fired up, because basically what you're just describing we see the power of enterprise. And as soon as the business shut down, it's like everything went on hold. And that goes to show the influence that we as business leaders have, and how commerce is literally fueling the world in a lot of ways. So the ultimate vision for us is that we are helping to create organizations, we're helping to create businesses, helping to create even governments that are supporting this movement towards celebrating diversity. And our vision of what that looks like is a world where everyone lives safely and thrives. So if we can help with that, we are actively helping with that as we continue to build that. When I think about the ultimate vision, is that we have the ability to influence on all levels of the world what it takes to create a safe world where everyone can thrive. Like, that's the ultimate vision.
And it should honestly be easily achieved. It should be easily achieved.
That'd be amazing. Yeah, I mean, we want that too. I mean, this idea that safety, we've been strategic in how we map out that vision, right? The idea that everyone lives safely, and going back to what we're saying with anxiety, that another element of lowering that anxiety is that people can actually feel safe. And right now, the threat level is high for many reasons, and that's what's easy. That's what makes it easy for people to go down this toxic path. It makes it easy for people to divide ourselves and to fight over scarcity versus doing what it would take to make sure that we're all safe. And I think people don't, one of the things we talk about in our workshops and when we're working with businesses as well is, what does safety look like for you? How do you feel safe? And then as we're going in this conversation, how can you protect yourself in ways that also increase the safety for others? And I think as we're having more of those conversations, we take it less, we start to bring it down to the core of what we're all looking for as human beings, which is to live safely and thrive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I know, the F.E.A.R.S advantage, that is all business, but to talk more about, the uncertainty. All right. So human needs, you have to have certainty. And you also have to have uncertainty, which is variety, but that is not the kind of uncertainty that we're getting right now. So we're uncertain, and it's been to even the basic needs of a paycheck, toilet paper. Am I going to have a job? Am I going to have a business?
And am I going to have a place to live? Am I going to have, is my family going to be safe? And I mean, so yeah, we're having so many big questions that we can't, like, people are trying to plan ahead with me. And I'm like, I'm even having trouble being like, what do you, like, planning beyond this month feels like, what? I don't know. It could change. Everything can change again in 2 weeks, So I think that there's this interesting conversation of what actually brings us certainty, and how do we create our own certainty to then find the healthy type of variety that we're looking for, right? That healthy balance of uncertainty that we can deal with, and that creates more surprise. Like right now we're dealing with uncertainty, right? You're like, my technology is not working. That we don't know if the video can play. Like, we're navigating that uncertainty, but what allows us to be like, all right, we're going to deliver value no matter what. And we're going to show up. That, like, I'm feel certain about that part. And that allows me to confidently walk into any type of a virtual space at this point, regardless of what's happening, in order to make sure that I can support and serve whoever's on the other side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. And it might not be as pretty as we planned.
Well, people keep talking about 2020 as as a year of clarity, and this is that that going to that extraordinary piece is absolutely it's a year of clarity, right? So what do we get clear about? Like, I got very clear on what is really important to me, and how do I move towards that, regardless of what's happening in the market, what's happening at home, what's happening in my life. Like, how do I keep moving towards what I need and what I want in my life?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a year of grounding too. And yeah, the clarity, and most of it, that brings it back to the basics: family, health, love, and which is, so I will post, I mentioned something yesterday about it being a year 4 in numerology. And so I think it's very interesting what's going on, but it absolutely is a grounding clarity year.
And most people don't know clarity. I mean, it requires that we kind of sift through things. And I think that when we were like 2020 is going to be awesome and we just hope it's going to be a blissful, I mean, I haven't found clarity in most elements of my life until I'm willing to slow down and look at what's going on. Or sometimes it's like you face a traumatic situation and you have to reevaluate in order to figure out what led to that, how to avoid it in the future, and how to learn from it moving forward. And that's kind of what we're seeing both of those things happen, where we've been challenged to slow down and we've been challenged to deal with a lot of difficulty in one shot.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so fears are at all-time high.
Yes.
And that's come in.
Yeah. So it's been a blessing for me to be able to offer what we're doing and to just see how that helps me. Like last night we were doing some planning and I'm just thinking about all the ideas and the great things that we can do, and then the anxiety is showing up, right? It's like, oh man, and I'm realizing, okay, how do I use my fears to my advantage, right? What is it? What is the fear, or what, identifying what is it that I'm afraid of? And there was so as I'm writing down, I say, okay, I'm afraid that we may not succeed. I'm afraid that I might let people down. I'm afraid of this and that. So I'm like writing the things that I'm afraid of. And I'm already feeling myself starting to calm down just to be able to identify the fears, right? Because people say like fears are false evidence appearing real. I'm like, it doesn't matter if it's false, it feels real, right? Like might as well like look at it though until we can see that the things that are fake there. And so so I'm looking through it, and then kind of the end message of writing to myself that I've actually done all those things before. I've failed before, I've let people down before, I've done all this before, and I'm still here. I'm still able to serve, I'm still able to thrive. So even in repositioning those fears that way of saying, okay, that's all legitimate, and I've already struggled through that before, and I've made it to the other side, so I can do it again. And as I started writing some more, what else how can I use the fears to my advantage? Well, it's strengthening all those things I'm afraid of. How do we prepare for those things? How do we strategize? And how do I like share with my business partner, with our community, what's going on for me in a way that allows me to get greater support, which is why that relationship piece is built into the fears advantage, is that we having other people mastermind together, doing what we're doing here, allows us to learn and grow together.
Mm-hmm. Well, and as you're writing down your fears, right? And you said I failed before. The next question could be, what did I learn from that? Because you learned.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
let people down before. Okay, what did I learn from that? And because every failure is a gift. It is a learning experience if you can learn from that. So I like the writing it down and saying, okay, I've experienced that before. Okay, what did I learn? And then it helps you to move forward. So
well, I think it helps you to move forward so after like what did I learn, it's like how can I use it, right? I think that's so I kind of just like I went through the quick version of how I process, but it's like writing it down, what did I learn and how can I use it, right? I think people like say, what did I learn? And like, I learned that I'm a jerk. Like they might like go down the negative rabbit hole of what they've learned. And it's like, how can I use it? Like how can I use this to my advantage? Like, that's what I would ask people to be thinking about, is not like, notice I'm not saying taking advantage of other people. I'm not saying taking advantage. I'm saying, how do we use this to our advantage to be able to continue to feel extraordinary, to take actions that support other people rising up as well. So when I think about it like that, it shifts my attention and I can focus on doing something better with it versus lamenting or suffering through it.
Yeah. And that last question is perfect. How can I use that? Yes, I love that. So what beliefs do you have that set you apart from your competition? And I don't see a lot of people in the fear thing. And so, but what is your unique idea, perspective coming from that thing?
Well, I think one is the idea that we can use our fears to our advantage. And when we look at flipping the script, is one of our favorite terms of how do we flip? Like, so we even recreating a new acronym for fears, or how do we again use it to our advantage? Like the thought process behind it, and trying to teach other people that. So that's for one. But then if we're bringing that into this context around prejudice and privilege and implicit bias and all that, for example, using that same frame of reference to flip the script. So for example, we flip the script on privilege as well, and helping people see how they can actually use their privilege to serve other people, use their privilege to the advantage of others. We help people flip the script on implicit bias, where a lot of people think that implicit bias is a bad thing or that only bad people have it. And we're like, no, everybody has implicit bias. We can use it differently if we look at implicit bias as info filled in by us. Like, I'm just adding a lot of information to whatever story you're telling me, or I'm making my assumptions about people as I see it. If I'm adding the information, I can change the information that I'm adding. That puts the power back on me. And as opposed to feeling shame and guilt, I can use the fact that I have implicit bias to my advantage to start adding better information, start to seek clarity, start to see people as more whole. And so I would say that's the greatest thing that differentiates us from other people, is that we are helping people to reclaim their power regardless of the difficulty of the conversations that we're in.
And look at it from a different perspective.
Yeah. The perspective of power. It's like, if I know, like, going back to my certainty, right? Like, how do I create certainty for myself? Well, it's flipping the script and being able to say, this thing has had power over me. No more of that. I'm going to flip it to where now I can put it on my back like a jetpack and say, I'm going to use it to power me, right? So that's where we would really want to restore that empowerment factor for people.
Awesome. So what was the hardest thing to overcome when starting your business?
Well, for sure, the fears. For sure. I had run a business for 9 years before we did this one. And when I closed the doors on that, just feeling the shame and the idea that it failed. And, we've heard before that 9 out of 10 businesses fail, but I think most of us start a business being like, I'm going to be that 1 out of 10 that's going to make it. None of us are like, I'm the 9. So I think it was certainly that piece and just having that past experience where I had to close a business. And what's interesting in that journey for me was I realized along the path is that I had identified myself so much with my past business that when it failed, I felt like a failure. So being able to separate those two was such an epiphany moment for me, where I saw, okay, it's okay that the business failed, because the business is not me. Like, the business, the service, the product, those are not me. Those are an extension of my ideas, an extension of my creativity, but that is not me. So when I could separate that, then I was like, oh, okay. So again, what did I learn? So I learned a lot about how to run a business and how can I use it to my advantage. Now it's like, we in a few months have done the same numbers that I was doing over the course of a year in my previous business, because I learned a lot of lessons and set up this new business way better in order to take what we learned and apply it more strategically. And so I think that the biggest struggle was attaching myself or identifying myself with my previous company or with the previous failures, and being able to detach from that, to have the sense of freedom to say that technically my growth in knowledge was one of the greatest successes that came out of that previous business, in addition to the impact that we're still seeing people gain freedom from, or gain value from. Like, I still have people reaching out to me. I'm like, that was so amazing what you did. It's like, great. Like, I'm reminded now that I have more distance from it. I'm reminded that we were still doing good work, even if we didn't get the outcomes we were looking for. And now we're able to align that good work with the outcomes that we want moving forward.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's beautiful, removing yourself from the failure, because it doesn't mean you were a failure. It means that business failed, just like COVID right now, that is completely out of people's hands. All the restaurants, all the businesses that are having to close shop, that had nothing to do with the owner, that had nothing to do. It was completely out of their control. So yes, disconnecting that. And, I kind of felt the same way. I had a beauty salon for 3.5 years, and, I wasn't prepared in any way, shape, or form to own that beauty salon. I was a bartender who bought a beauty salon. And, luckily, the 2 ladies that I bought the salon from, they were there to help me a little bit, but I was green as can be, and ever owning a salon, and I had 15 people in my salon, and there were certain things, but it was a huge learning lesson. It was a huge win walking in that building and going, this is mine. And then it was one of the most stressful times of my life. But
I hear you on that. I mean, I, I love what especially during this time like you're describing, we're walking. What does success look like, right? So that I think that's an interesting thing for us to be determining, especially when we look at again the fears advantage. The S stands for systems. What does success look like, and how do we scale towards that? You're describing, every one of those things was a learning, right? You got a chance to learn, you got a chance to get a lesson. And one of the greatest gifts that I received during this time was from a guy named David Bayer, who taught me about the problem solution model, where we just put things in order. Like as entrepreneurs, we succeed by solving problems, right? Like we solve for ourselves, and then we solve problems for other people, and then those other people start to pay us to keep solving those problems. And as you're describing walking into the salon, right, you saw that you've never done this before, so you're getting mentored and you are learning and you're solving, you're learning, you're solving, you're learning, you're solving. And in this time that we're seeing people pivot, we're essentially pivoting the problems that we're solving. We're pivoting how we do the work. And when we can separate from what we used to think, like, I don't know about you, but I had an awesome plan coming into this year. I was like, this next decade is going to be epic. And I didn't plan for a worldwide pandemic in year one, right? It's like this idea of, okay, that dream is on pause at best. And at worst, that dream is done like that. It has to be a pivot. But if I can release myself from the products that I imagine, from the business that I imagined before, if I can release myself from that past identity and start to solve new problems, that changes everything. So when we're going back to this conversation about certainty, I'm certain that I can solve this problem, and I can solve the next one, and I can just keep on going. That also helps me reduce my stress because I'm only doing one thing at a time. That helps me just really focus on how do I help people one day at a time as well to navigate whatever this uncertainty is.
Mm-hmm. And this uncertainty was meant to happen.
It's happening, so it must already be meant to be. It's not good. We can't even we can't say anything else. It's already happening. This is it now.
Yeah. So do you have the support network of friends and family encouraging you to do this business, or is this something you feel compelled to do and you're going to do no matter what?
Oh, both. I mean, I felt compelled, and I do love that. So I love what you have this called Only the Inspired. It's this idea that when we feel inspired, we're compelled to do something. And I'm really grateful that I also have the support of other people. And it's been really interesting to also help other people help me, like being very clear on not only how, like, what my vision is, because there's a lot of people who have vision and they're inspired, but then they can't communicate it, so people like don't actually help them or get, like, we have those clients too, so we're helping them figure out their message and really get focused on how to communicate their vision. So I'm grateful that I can do that. And the other part of literally asking for help, right? What does it mean to ask for help and to almost like train people how to help me, right? Like how I remember being able to even ask my teammates of, don't say it's going to be okay, tell me we got this, like, right? Like help them tell me the words that I need to hear in those difficult moments, but that means I need to know them too, right? So I have to literally know how to ask for help and be willing to help people help me in the highest levels and the hardest times. And I encourage people to be thinking about that too, of when you're looking for support and you're building those relationships, how can you support people in supporting you? I think that's the easiest way to ask that. What are the ways that you actually want people to support? And are you communicating that? Are you communicating your vision in a way that allows people to see themselves in it and clearly have ways to assist you along that path?
I love that. For me, and I think a lot of people, it's really hard to ask for help. And to reframe that, all right, if I could help people understand how best to help me, that's awesome. But it's tough. It's tough to ask for help. And but the pride gets in the way a little bit. It's like, I got this, I got it figured out. Or you don't want to impose yourself on other people, but no doubt about it, you easily offer your help and help other people, but it's weird for some reason asking for that help back sometimes.
Yeah, I think it
Veronica,
comes back to what our
what?
fears might be. I think it comes back to what our fears might be, right? If I believe that asking for help means that I'm not good enough, then I'll never ask for it, right? If I believe that I asking for help allows me to be more successful, then of course I'm going to ask, right? I think it's just, even as simple as that. Like if you know, we can have a whole nother live stream just about that of like what does it mean to us? And this kind of ties back to implicit bias in the information we're filled in, if that we're filling in. If I believe again that asking for help is going to allow me to become stronger, more successful, allow me to reach for more people, then it's a no-brainer that I'm going to ask for it. And so I would encourage people to even look at how do they flip the script on thinking that they have to do it by themselves. I love asking people, did you give birth to yourself? And people look at me like, what are you talking about? It's like, did you give birth to yourself? They're like, no. I mean, we all needed other people to literally get here. Until people have like immaculate conception, they can like make themselves appear. We needed people's help to get here. We need people's help to continue to stay here and to thrive while we're here. So I'll leave it at that for right now. The point being, just really reframe what it means to ask for help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I think collaboration is a way to get that help and help everybody all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So none of you guys asked, hey, Robin, can you help, put on this summit and put me on the stage and help me? But at the same time, it's helping me. So I am more than willing to, help all you amazing coaches, because this has truly been a blessing for me. At the same time, it's helping me get awareness for Only the Inspired. So I think collaboration might be a perfect way to get that help, because then you don't feel weird about it. Veronica Shire says communication is everything.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Is communication and what we are, how we're seeking to collaborate, or like what creates the win-wins. And so even before this call, kind of going back to communication, I apologize to you for not being as communicative in my process for because we touched base on this like 2 months ago, and then things have gotten nuts. And it's like, well, I can see what my priorities are, and I can also be more clear in communicating. Like, I think a lot of people are avoiding things that make us uncomfortable, and it's like, how do I stop avoiding and start going into and like being more clear with what I'm committing to, more clear on how I communicate with folks, and more clear on how I help others, right? Like helping you and supporting all of this, and being flexible with the technology, but also being authentic and saying, I apologize for not being as involved up to the promotion of this based on what I was doing. And so, the flip side of the communication is, what are we willing to do to continue to improve the relationships, even if we mess up or we do something like we started this conversation talking about, like that interview, and your follow-up that you did with me was super impressive, of just checking in with me and how I felt based on the interview, and navigating that to make sure that you were caring about me and my experience in addition to yours and your experience.
Gotcha. No, yes. Well, and that was important to me, because I think very highly of you. And so we're talking about that initial interview about the racial inequality. And so I felt good about it. And then I showed it to my man, and he's all, I would not show that to anybody, because and he seemed like I wasn't sensitive to your needs. Maybe I wasn't looking at the perspective, and I kept looking at other different biases, because we all have them, right? And so I was just, first of all, it's like, I hope I did not offend him in any way. And so I wanted to make sure, because I wouldn't even want to hurt anybody that I don't like. And there's hardly anybody I don't like anyways. Veronica says, I appreciate you both. We appreciate you.
I want to give a shout out to Trisha too. Good to see you out there. I mean, and think what you're saying. Yeah, like this.
So let's do the interview.
Yeah, let's go.
About that one. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's like you're saying, of just like checking in with people. And if I think it's if we're summarizing this interview and we're talking about the fears, like checking in with others, but also checking in with ourselves. Like how do we feel? How do like what's going on with us? I literally I believe if more people did that, we would get way better communication. We would be on the same page if we were willing to check in. I heard from John Gordon, he says when negativity or where there's a lack of communication, negativity fills the space. And I think that happens within our own self, and then it happens within the relate. Like we didn't talk after that. Like you're like both of us, it could have just been more and more negative, and then without just clarifying what the heck's going on, and then being able to just resolve it. And I think it's if we can use that as a model for folks of just reaching out, checking in, being authentic from where we're at, and that's what's going to help us not only manage our fears better, but also build the relationships and the systems that are going to allow us to succeed personally and professionally.
Mm-hmm. Well, and yeah, like you said, checking in with yourself. So, we're all connected, right? And there's lots of us coaches that are all connected, and we all have cool stuff going. Everybody's got their own groups, and, I have a certain amount of guilt for not being involved in other people's groups because I'm so overwhelmed with what I'm doing, but I haven't reached out and said, I'm so sorry I haven't been there, because lots of people, join my group and I want to support everybody, but I know at this time I can't. But then at the same time, you have a little bit of guilt or shame. And so instead of actually saying, let's say it's Veronica, sorry I haven't been in your Survive to Thrive group as much as I should. I'm tapped out, but I haven't had that conversation. And some of the other people that are, having that thing, and it's uncomfortable, but I love, if we just opened up, then it's like, oh, we're good, and I know everybody's busy and you apologize and I appreciate that. But, we all have lives also. So yes, I love that. And it does improve the relationships, even though if you think it's, you think it's negative because you haven't actually gone there. Yes.
I just haven't seen avoidance help, I guess. Like I think it's I imagine it has to help at some point because that's why people keep doing it. But I feel like avoidance doesn't truly help us long term, or it doesn't help us to connect. I guess that's kind of the thing. Avoidance can maybe help us run away or maybe feel like a sense of safety in a moment, but it doesn't help us to connect or to truly build better relationships. And so yeah, I think that's that's an interesting thing as we start to wrap this up, like really thinking through that lens of, what inspires us to actually connect and do the hard things.
Mm-hmm. Well, and avoidance, I think, makes us feel crappier.
It does. I mean, like I said, I'm trying to think of a time in my life. It's a temporary, it might be a temporary win, right? Like I'm like seeing all these examples flash in my mind of the times I've avoided something versus the times I've just said, you know what, I'm going to just deal with this right now and get it done. And like you said, oftentimes it's less scary or less, it's actually more beneficial that I took care of it and I resolved it. And I think if I'm leaving with anything as we're talking about the fears advantage, the reason that we create is because so many people were trying to avoid their fears and stuff them down that I think it was costing them more than they realized. It was costing me more than I realized. And when I started to go towards my fears and look at how I can use them and embrace them and channel them towards my advantage, it changed everything for me. And as I'm even in this conversation around prejudice and racial tension and inequity, I used to avoid those conversations too. And now we're going in them more strategically in a way that helps to bring people together and to use the fears advantage to, again, fuel extraordinary actions, relationships, and systems that helps us to come together. Like that I feel way more inspired to do that. And the hard conversations are becoming easier because I'm just leaning into them and going for it.
And people appreciate the hard conversations. Once they're done, it's like, oh my gosh, thank goodness we did that.
as long as we have the intention, like we did a live stream where the hard conversations that heal. Like we want if we have the intention to actually heal the relationship, that's different than having a hard conversation to destroy another person or get retaliation. So when we're clear on our intention and what we're looking for, going back to that vision question you're asking, it's to me much more clear that if the intention on the other side is to have more healing, it's worth going through the hard conversation.
Absolutely. I would never intend to hurt anybody, but that's me. So what is your favorite thing about your business?
Favorite thing, I think the favorite thing is the people I get to work with, right? The people like yourself, the people I've got to meet even over the last few months digitally has been very interesting. It's like I've met people all over the world, and I was doing that when I was traveling before, but it's just been amazing to feel a sense of connection all over the world, and the folks that we get to talk to and support, and the people who are really doing the work. It continues to inspire me. So sometimes I'll have meetings at like 8 p.m. my time, and then I'm like, all right, this is the last meeting. It's the last thing I'm going to do for work. And then we have such a powerful conversation. I'm like, oh, okay, let's go. And so I think just the people and the power that constant re-inspiring that keeps me going. Like that's definitely my favorite part.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So what inspires you? What are you passionate about? And it doesn't have to be business.
Oh, passionate about I think if I were to look at, if we're going back to the 6 human needs, I would look at the growth and contribution of how am I paying forward all the things in my life? Like I even doing this morning, I started with Tony Robbins priming, and then he asked us to look at those moments of gratitude for in our lives and those moments of coincidence. And I think regardless if I was running a business or just being a human being, is kind of focusing on gratitude and all the gifts that I've received. And to me, that it just keeps inspiring me to give back or to give forward and pay forward. And I think that regardless of if I was running a business or not, that's what inspires me, is how do I share and multiply the gifts that I've been receiving in my life.
That's beautiful. You're a beautiful person.
Veronica
said we have to give ourselves the grace we give to others. Absolutely. And sometimes it's harder to do, but yes, we have to. We have to treat ourselves as kind as we would others. For sure.
Yeah. I think so. Then I think on that note too, then I will, speaking of all the people, I will have to this will be the last question too, because we can talk all day, and then we're getting our live stream right after this too. So I want to, get all inspired to go serve them too. So.
Yep. So, all right, we'll skip the who inspires you, and we'll go last question. If you could leave one tip or golden nugget for the people listening, and it was the only thing you could say and your only chance to say it, what would that be? That's me. All right. It could be
if there's only one thing I would say, that you are loved and life is still working for you, has always been working for you. Even in difficult times, life is trying to help you. Keep working with life, stay alive, thrive, and help others do the same.
Absolutely. Life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you, right? Even the ugly stuff.
even the difficult things. I mean, it's almost bringing me to tears to hear that phrase that life is always working for you. And I get so mad sometimes. I'm like, how the hell is this working for me? And then I start to think, am I working for life? Am I actually working to help life help me? And I'm like, wait a minute, I can't say that I always have been. So then that refocuses my attention on how do I help life help me? And that's a different conversation in my mind now. That's going back to that gratitude conversation, because now I see that life is working for me, and I also have to work with life.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, I know you have somewhere to go. Thank you so much for being here and putting up with the tech issues.
This is great, though. Thank you. I'm glad we pivoted.
Yeah. And so Kemy will be in the group if you guys want to reach out to him, he has a giveaway. I will play the other recording and I'll put the giveaways. I have a guy going like this in the group, so that's where all the giveaways are. And so he will be there. If you want to send him a message, anything like that, feel free to do that. He has another obligation. And so thank you for being here. And I will play those, your video and Tamarah's later when I'm not on the dinosaur.
Yes, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you so much, Robin. And we'll be in touch soon.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, everybody. So thank you. Sorry about all the tech issues. And yeah, I started the update on my laptop about an hour and a half ago and totally thought it would be done. So anyways, I will play those videos later on. I just love Kemy. He's such an awesome person. So so Tamarah Quillmann, she is the other interview that I had today. So she invented this little thing called Tuk-It, and it's basically like a hide key that will latch onto your bra strap. It could latch on the inside of your shorts or anything. You could go kayaking, you could go jogging, bicycle riding, anything, and not have the fear of losing your key ever, which would be wonderful, because I know with girls, you have the purse, but so anyways, that's what that's about. So she invented the Tuk-It, and she went through the whole process of getting it patented. And so kind of a fun experience for her. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for being here. Again, check out all the little videos that I got going on, onlytheinspired.com. We're doing our pre-launch right now. It's $47 a month, which is just a screaming deal, and that price is going to go up on Monday. But so I'm going to get going because I know this is glitchy and I know it's probably annoying, and then I will show up later on in the group with the other videos, and so we will talk to you guys later. Have a wonderful day. Oh, wait. So tomorrow we have Miss Lynn Lissell, and she's a health coach, and I absolutely love Lynn. So I'm super excited about that interview tomorrow. And then we also have the amazing Ellie Sheffy, who has really put it into full-blown overdrive since COVID happened. She started 3 businesses and has written a book. And she has an interview with Jack Canfield this week. And so she is kicking butt. So I am super excited about both of the interviews tomorrow. So make sure that you tune in, and we will see you guys later.